Hello, everybody. Today, our topic will be common miscommunications and how to avoid them in Mandarin culture. And welcome to the class today. Let's look at our first slide. So, Mandarin speakers often use indirect language, which can be like leading to miscommunication if it is not uh, like dealt accordingly or according to the circumstances. And in high context, Mandarin culture, it is much implied rather than stated, which may cause confusion to the outsiders. And these are some of our false friends in Mandarin when it comes to speaking the language or communicating in the language itself. So these are some of the words that you should be worried about, especially when using in a context or in a conversation. So one of the first ones is cow, cow with the first tone. Cow, it usually means high or tall or something at a very high altitude or something like that. But it sounds like go in English, but the real meaning is tall or high, not movement. So this is one of the first false friends. And the second one we have here is my, uh, which sounds like my in English, but it means to sell and not possessive. There's another thing that is required to be noted here, because this is my with fourth tone, and we have another my with third tone, which obviously means to buy, and this one with fourth tone, this means to sell. So we must make sure that we are not confusing this with the other one, because then it can change the context of the meaning as well. Like you are going to buy something and or you are going to sell something. There is a difference between the tones here as well, because the pinyin is same, pinyin notation is same, but the node of the tone is different. For example, we have my with third tone here, and the character looks like this. While for the other word, which is my, it is like with the fourth tone, just like we have the one mentioned there. So these are some of the differences you see uh, in this kind of like tonal language culture that we have with Mandarin language. And then we have the next word, which is shui. Shui means water in Chinese, but it sounds like sweet at times. But it actually means water in the actual context that we use in Mandarin language. So another thing that uh, we must attach our importance to while using the language in a context like this. And then we have the next word, which is shin, shin, uh, which sounds like sin, but it means new, not something wrong. So shin generally means new or fresh. So this is another uh, context where you would definitely want it to understand it properly well so that you can use it in a context. And then you have next one, which is ping, ping. It sounds like Bing, but Bing like a search engine, but it means ice in Chinese. So these are some of the false friends in Mandarin that we must take care of and or take notice of. And just like we have another comparison here where we have han si in case of Chinese, which is woman, 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 woman means I am slow. But but the same context, same Chinese characters in Japanese kanji, it's gaman. Gaman means patience. So I am slow and patience. There is a big difference here as well. So the usage of context is very important in a language because if we don't know how to use it properly, well, that then it can backfire. Not only just in general conversations, but also in doing translations or even during basic understanding regarding a meeting or anything that you want to discuss. It's very important to make sure that you can make yourself understood in a situation like that. And next we have kan, which sounds like can, but it means to look or to watch, and it also means to read. So it's not the ability, it's about being able to look, watch, or read. So another thing that you would like to notice here. And then you have the next one, which is lay. Lay sounds like lay in English, but it means tired, not to place something down. And then you have ma, which sounds like ma, but French my, but means mother, not possessive. So this is another word that you would like to take notice of because ma in Chinese is generally used for mother as a meaning. Um, sounds like ma, French my, but means mother, not possessive. And the next one is pu, which sounds like boo, but means not a scare or sound. So another context where you would like to understand it properly well to make sure that you don't end up like mixing it up. And then you have the next word, which is yao. It sounds like yo, but means to want or to need. So it's not a greeting. So we have some words here. Let's read the words again, like cow, which means high or tall, and then mai, which means to sell, and then shui, which means uh, water, and then we have the next word, which is shin, which means new, and then ping, which means ice, and another new word that I told you is my, which is my with a third tone, which means to buy, and this one with the this one is for buying, and this one is for selling, just like we have in our context. Okay. So just to make things easy for you, I've written it here as well. And then kan, which means to watch, read, or see, and lay, which means tired, ma, which means mother, and po, which means not, or you can say promptly answering no, or promptly denying something, rejecting something. It's a sign of like negation or negativity in a sentence. And then you have yao. It sounds like yo, but it means to want or to need. It expresses your need or want towards some certain something. It can be a living thing. It can also be a non-living thing. It's not a greeting, so it depends on the context you use. Depending on the context, it can mean uh, like wanting or need or having the need of certain something. And then we have the next slide, which is like telling us about clarifying some of the doubts when we use the language itself. So politeness is very crucial. Instead of directly saying I don't understand, you could use expression like 请问, 这个是什么意思？请问这个是什么意思？It means, may I ask what does this mean? So, 请问 may I ask? 这个 means this. 是 is 什么意思？What's the meaning of this? So in other sense, may I ask what's the meaning of this or what does it mean? So this is a polite way to ask about something that you don't know. So 请问这个是什么意思？ So it's usually used to ask someone politely about something that you don't know or not very well aware of. And the next point is you can use indirect expressions rather than challenging someone. So asking someone gently like 你可以解释一下吗？解释 means to explain. 可以 may you or generally it means may I or can I, but because we are using the expression ni, which means the other person, so it's second person pronoun here. So that's why 你可以解释一下, but it means for a moment or something like that. So is it possible for you to explain it a bit? So this is what it means, or explain it in a moment or something like that. So 你可以解释一下吗? So could you explain it a bit? So this is another expression that you would like to use because it's very one of the important points is it's very polite and it's also indirect. So these kind of expressions are uh, like better to use in circumstances where you are like having doubts about something or there's something that you don't understand very well. So this is one of those expressions that can really help you. And then maintaining face 面子, which is face saving, that is very important in the culture itself. Don't openly correct others. Frame your clarification as seeking help rather than pointing out errors. So direct confrontation in like while criticizing someone is not something that is very appreciated in the culture itself. So don't openly correct others even if you feel that someone is being wrong in certain something or whatever the scenario is. Try to frame it in a way that you are seeking help rather than like pointing out others or to use indirect expressions like 你可以解释一下吗 or something relevant to that may not offend the person that you are talking to. So that is also very important. And the next one is non-verbal cues matter a lot. A puzzled facial expression or a slight head tilt often prompts the speaker to clarify without needing to ask. So this is also another important point to highlight here. So um, if you use some kind of facial expressions to express that you're not sure about something and you need clarification, it usually such nods or such kind of expressions can often prompt the speaker to clarify without even having the need to ask about something directly. So this is also a very important point here. And then you have to confirm understanding subtly, say like 我的理解正确吗？我的理解 means my understanding. Uh, the is the possessive particle here, which is showing possession of 理解. 理解 means the explanation towards 我, which is personal pronoun yourself. 我的理解 my understanding. 正确 means correct. uh, Ma is the question particle in the end, so 我的理解正确吗? It means is my understanding correct or am I understanding it correctly or something like that. So it's just used to double check without sounding too much blunt in your approach uh, or too much direct in your approach. So it is also another way to ask about something if you are not really sure uh, whether you are correct about something or not. So 我的理解正确吗? This is one of them that we studied, and the other one was 你可以解释一下吗? Which means could you explain it a bit? And then 请问这个是什么意思? May I ask what does this mean? Or something like that. And maintaining face means, of course, is also an important point of clarifying doubts. So do keep in mind that don't openly correct others. Frame your clarification as seeking help rather than pointing out errors. So all of these points are very important. And then let's see how we can politely ask someone for clarification. So the first expression we have here is 请问您可以再说一遍吗? In this conversation, we have 一遍, which means once or one time. So we have the number there, which is which means one. So if you have which is two, or san, then it will mean three times. So uh, in this conversation, it's just being discussed like for one time only. So 请问, may I ask, 您可以, will you be able to, or can you? 再说, 再, this one means again. Okay, 说 to speak. 一边 one time, 吗 is a question particle. So 请问您可以再说一遍吗? Excuse me, can you say that again? So 请问您可以再说一遍吗? So excuse me, could you say that again? So this is also a very polite expression to ask somebody if you haven't heard anything correctly during the conversation, or you are feeling that you are not being understood very well, or you are not able to understand the other person very well in particular. So the next uh, statement we have here is 对不起, which is generally used for sorry. 我没有听清楚. 没有 means not have, or haven't, or didn't. 听清楚, 听 means 听 means generally to listen. 清楚 means clearly. Okay, 我 it's personal pronoun again here, so 我没有听清楚. 清楚, 清楚, then again it means clearly. 听 means to listen, and 没有 means haven't or didn't or something like that. So 对不起，我没有听清楚，清楚. So I'm sorry, I didn't catch that clearly, or I'm sorry, I didn't hear it clearly, or something like that. So next one you have is 不好意思，你能解释一下吗？不好意思 generally means excuse me in a more polite manner, in a polite way, without like offending anyone, and it is generally used for politer and more formal conversations. Okay, so 不好意思, 您能解释一下吗? 您 means you in respectful form. 能解释一下 means could you explain that a bit? So excuse me, could you explain that a bit? 不好意思，您能解释一下吗? So this is the next expression we have here. And then the next one, 您刚才说的是 blah 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 吗? So you have the empty space in between 您刚才说的是 and after that empty space you have the question particle ma. So did you just say, uh, if there's anything that someone just said, but you don't know what exactly it is, so if you want somebody to ask about it, then you can use this kind of expression. So did you just say, and then that about that thing you can mention in there. So the sentence structure is already there. So 您刚才说的是 and blah blah blah, and ma is a question particle here. So it is used to confirm 您刚才说的是 ma. So in between you mention about that particular thing or item or anything that you didn't listen very clearly. So the next one, we have the next statement, which is 我不太明白，能再说一遍吗？我不太明白 means I don't quite understand, or I didn't quite understand, or something like that. And 能再说一遍吗? Could you repeat it? or is it possible for you to repeat it? So, and so it's another sentence where we are trying to express I don't quite understand. Uh, so can you repeat it again or something like that? So 我不太明白，能再说一遍吗？明白 means to understand, and 不太明白 means not quite understanding or not quite able to understand or something like that. 能再说 means is it possible to say it again? 一遍吗 means repeating it once more time. So we have the sentences here, which is the first one. 请问您可以再说一遍吗? Excuse me, could you say that again? And then we have the next one. 对不起，我没有听清楚. Sorry, I didn't catch that clearly. And then we have the next one, which is 不好意思，您能解释一下吗? Excuse me, could you explain that a bit? So then we have 您刚才说的是 blah 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 and ma at the end, this question particle. And the last sentence is 我不太明白. I'm not able to understand it very well, or I don't quite understand it. 能再说一遍吗? So could you repeat it, please? So it's something like that. So it's about politely asking for clarifications when you run into some kind of issues uh, while using the language or when you are in the speaking environment. So these are some of the important expressions that you can have a look at uh, to because you can use these in crunch situations and in important scenarios. So it's very important to be able to understand and use these kind of expressions. So we have some other sentences in the next part here. So in the first part we have 请您慢一点说. 慢一点 means a bit slowly, a bit slow. 慢 means slow. 一点 means a bit. 说 means to speak, and 请, as we already know, uh, generally it is used for polite expressions asking for some kind of favor from somebody. 好吗 means will it be okay or is that possible? It's another way to ask about something politely. So 请您慢一点说好吗? Could you speak a bit more slowly, please? And then we have the next expression, which is 这个是什么意思? This is also an expression that we just studied in the beginning. 什么意思 means what's the meaning? 这个 means this. So is a verb that is like similar to is mr in form of usage in a context. So 这个是什么意思 means what does this mean? And then we have the next expression, which is 我有点不明白你的意思。我有点不明白您的意思。我有点 means a bit, uh, and 不明白 means not being able to understand or not sure about something. And 我 again is a personal pronoun here. 您的意思 means what you mean or what your meaning was or something like that. So I'm a bit unsure about what you mean. Or in other sense, I'm not sure about what you are meaning to say. So 我有点不明白您的意思. And then we have the next sentence, which is 能否换一种说法?说法 means uh, means way of saying or way of explaining something. 换 means to change. 一种 means type. 能否 means is it possible or not, or could it be possible or not, or something like that. Because 否 is for negativity, 能 is being capable of saying or being able to say. So 能否换一种说法 means could you say it in in another way, or is it possible to uh, explain it in another way or in a different way? So 能否换一种说法? Could you say it in another way? So this is one of the other expressions that we have here. And then the next one, which is 可以请您再解释详细一点吗?可以请您再解释详细一点吗? 可以 means may I or is it possible? 请您 is it possible to like uh, is it possible for you to explain it in more detail? 详细 is the detail here, 一点 a bit, and 解释 then again it means to explain. 请您 actually means that is it possible to like ask you for this kind of favor? 再 means again, so 可以请您再解释详细一点吗? 详细 then again we just studied it means detail and eaten a bit. So is it possible to like ask you to explain it in more detail again? So it's like asking someone for a favor like this. So 可以请您再解释详细一点吗? So could you please explain it in more detail, please? So this was our uh, last sentence of this slide. So in role playing features, uh, whenever you are using these kind of expressions in like general conversations or daily life conversations, make sure that you use all these false friends that you have learned and let the other participant understand the real meaning of them, because uh, if if the real meaning is not understood, then it will be very difficult for you to communicate properly well with the other person. Uh, So the content for today is pretty much it, but I'm going to like go through all the content again just to have a revision of what we learned today. So our topic was about common miscommunications and how to avoid them in Mandarin culture. And just to let you know again, like Mandarin speakers often use indirect language, which can lead to miscommunication if it is taken more literally rather than understanding the context in detail. So, in high context Mandarin culture, which is implied rather than stated, uh, it can often confuse outsiders or others or someone who is learning Mandarin for the very first time. So these are some things that we do need to like take notice of. And then we have some of the false friends, just like I mentioned before. Cow, one of the first ones, which means tall or high, doesn't move movement, but it sounds like go. And then we have the next one, which is my, which generally means to sell, but it sounds like my in English, but it means to sell. Not it's not a possessive particle. So another thing that I explained is that there are two kinds of my in Chinese. One with her tone, which is pronounced as my, which means by, and then we have the other one that that we have seen here, which is with the fourth tone, which is pronounced as my with fourth tone, which means to sell. So don't confuse these two between each other, because it can change the meaning or context of whatever you are trying to explain or say. And then you have the next one, which is shui, which generally means water, but it sounds like sweet. Uh, so make sure that you are using the context in a way that the other speaker is being able to understand whatever you are trying to say. And the next one is xin, which means new, but sounds like sin in English, but it doesn't mean something wrong. So the next one is ping, which sounds like ping like a search engine, but it means ice in Chinese. And then we had a small explanation of these two comparisons as well. Like in Chinese, we say 我慢 means I'm slow, but in Japanese, the same Chinese characters, they are pronounced like 咱们 which means patience. So there's a big difference between patience and I am slow. And then we have the word and next word, which is kan, which sounds like can, but it means to look or to watch, not the ability. And it also means to read. And then you have the next one, which is lay, which sounds like lay, but it often means it like tired or not to place something down. So this is also something to notice here. And then we have ma, which sounds like ma in French my, but it means mother. Not it's not a possessive word. And then you have po, which sounds like boo, but means not a scare or sound. And then you have yao, which sounds like yo, but means to want or to need, not a greeting. And some of the important points, like while clarifying doubts or something like that. So politeness is crucial. Instead of directly saying I don't understand, say 请问这个是什么意思? Meaning, may I ask what does this mean? And use indirect expressions rather than challenging someone. Ask gently, like 你可以解释一下吗? 你可以解释一下吗? Meaning, could you explain it a bit? And then maintain face. Like 面子, it's very important in Chinese culture. So don't openly correct others. Frame your clarification as seeking help rather than pointing out errors. And then you have non-verbal cues matter, like a puzzled facial expression or a slight head tilt often prompts the speaker to clarify without needing to ask or without having the need to ask anybody. So confirm understanding subtly, say 我的理解正确吗？我的理解正确吗？我的理解正确吗 meaning is my understanding correct? So to double check without sounding blunt or too much direct in your approach. And then politely asking for like clarification. One of the first one, 请问您可以再说一遍吗? Meaning, excuse me, could you say it again, please, or something like that. Then you have 对不起，我没有听清楚。对不起，我没有听清楚 means sorry, I didn't catch that clearly. And then you have the next one, which is 不好意思，你能解释一下吗？不好意思，你能解释一下吗? Excuse me, could you explain that a bit? So 不好意思 is like a more polite expression to say excuse me to somebody in this kind of scenario where you are feeling guilty about like not being able to understand very well. So you are just being polite to ask somebody again whether it's possible to explain that a bit again so that you can understand it very well. So 不好意思，你能解释一下吗? So excuse me, could you explain that a bit? And then you have the next expression, which is 您刚才说的是 blah 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 and ma at the end. So did you just say that just used to confirm about something that you are not like understanding very well or you didn't understand very well? So you are like asking about it again to the speaker. And then you have the last expression, which is 我不太明白，能再说一遍吗? Meaning I don't quite understand or I don't understand very well. Could you repeat it? 能再说一遍吗？能再说一遍吗? Could you repeat it again? 我不太明白，能再说一遍吗? So could you repeat it again? And then we have the next slide, which is the first one. 请您慢一点说好吗? Could you speak a bit more slowly, please? So this is like the first one. And the next one is 这个是什么意思? What does this mean? 我有点不明白您的意思. I'm a bit unsure about what you mean or what you are wanting to say. And then you have 能否换一种说法?能否换一种说法? So 能否换一种说法?能否换一种说法 means could you say it in another way? So 能否 is it possible or not? 换 to change or alter. 一种means another way. 说法 another way of speaking or explaining something. So could you say it in another way? And then you have the last one, which is 可以请您再解释详细一点吗？详细 means in detail. 解释 explanation, just like we studied before. So 可以请您再解释详细一点吗? So is it possible to like request you to please explain it again in more detail or something like that? So just like in the role play scenario, use all the false friends that we have learned today and let the other participant understand the real meaning of them, because only then you will be able to communicate well with the other speakers. So all of the false friends that we have gone through are one of the most common ones in Mandarin, not just the culture itself, but also in the language. So make sure that you are able to like use them very well, uh, because it will save you from a lot of trouble, especially when it comes to language barrier, misunderstandings, and all that stuff. So that's pretty much it for today regarding the class and the lesson that we were supposed to learn today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me or let me know.